Hello everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's nice to see you all. What's up? So,
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about Cirith, Ungol, and an incredible region, and I can't wait to show you guys. But before we get into that, we wanted to kind of address some of things that we've been seeing in the environment recently. So, there's a couple questions that we want to clarify a bit, which Mike is here to talk to about.
Yeah, just really quickly. So after last week's stream on the market, and we were looking at that, and there were a few issues that came up that we just wanted to be super clear about. The first one is you absolutely do not need to be online to play the game, to play the entire single player game, the whole story campaign, the whole epic experience. Secondly, and related to that, because obviously you can play the whole game offline, the game's absolutely balanced for that. All our testing, all our balancing, all our pacing is all based around that offline experience. And then finally, the other one that came up, if you do play online and you're playing the online conquests and people are attacking your fortresses that you've built up, you've got your amazing orcs in there, you can't ever lose anything as a result of that. You know, the only way an orc's ever going to die is if he's dying alongside you in combat, you know, and in the game that way. So that was basically it. We just wanted to see those, get those 3 points across and make sure those are clear. So play offline, balanced for that, and you can't lose anything through playing online and having people attack your stuff.
Thank you, Mike. So
Thank
there we
you.
go. Cool. So we're going to go to a quick break because I'm going to get us ready for Cirith, Ungol. So let's do that. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Louder.
I didn't hit the mic. I didn't hit the mic. Good morning, everybody. I'm hitting the mic. This is Phil Straub, Director of Art.
Hello there.
Hello, everybody. Oh, man. It's a red flashing button. Anyway.
We're here now.
We're here now. We're talking about Cirith, Ungol. Let's go ahead and show the first bit of concept art that we have about Cirith, Ungol. Check this out behind us. Isn't this gorgeous? This is the fortress at Cirith, Ungol. Currently a warmonger one. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of concept art to in-game and what we see?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, everything starts with, you know, initial ideas and sort of conceptual concepts of what we're trying to visually communicate. Mm-hmm. And then from there we do quite a bit of reference gathering,
right,
to try to narrow down what we're trying to visually accomplish. We also do, which we'll talk a little bit later, we do on-location shoots as well.
Ooh,
and so we sort of I come up with a creative brief,
right,
work with the team on that, and then you know, focus on the key visual components that we're trying to communicate with that. And then we start doing sketches, and they're rough sketches. You know, we do a bunch of them to try to figure out what what we want the mood to be, what we want the geology to be, the architecture, and then from there, once we sort of finalize, then we start doing sort of our more finished color concept pieces, which is what you're seeing here.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's actually take the opportunity to show people what this looks like now in game.
Yeah. There it is.
There you go. That's
Hello.
We have currently Andy is steering behind us. So Andy, if you could give us a nice little look at those beautiful, beautiful fortress. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, look at the sun on the left too. I love that.
So you get a nice shot of the vista there.
Nice shot of the vista indeed. So we were talking a little bit earlier about the start point and how important it was about even the whole process on where to put the start point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, we do spend a fair amount of time thinking about the start point, and when we think about the start point and we talk about it, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that all of the key iconic visual elements that make up this space are sort of there for the viewer to see. So set the tone, set the emotion, because at the end of the day, really, all we as artists are doing is trying to create an emotional response from the consumers, and we use all of our tools in a toolbox. We have, you know, our silhouette, our shapes, our color, our value, our light. But in the case of Cirith, Ungol, I mean, obviously this was or is a very iconic location within the Lord of the Rings, and so we wanted to make sure that we represented that well. One of the big things that we talked about in terms of iconic structures and iconic concepts that were unique to this location was to, basically have this be a fortress in the clouds, a fortress in the sky. And if Andy walks around a little bit here, we can
go ahead and start
potentially see a little bit of that.
So Fortress in the Clouds. Now,
Fortress in the Clouds.
How high up are we right now?
We are very, very high. I don't know. One of the higher peaks in Middle Earth is what we'll say. And you know, as we sort of traverse here, you can see that we have this beautiful vista that, like I said, is setting the tone for the feel of the map. Andy, take a look out at the vista there for me.
Jump up in the tower first, real quick.
There you go.
Just so that we can even get a better one, and also it'll minimize the dudes attacking us. Because when we're playing this, we're actually doing this in-game, so there's going to be a potential of even an ambush if we're not careful. But anyway, oh man, I love that.
This gives us a nice view of sort of, you know, what we were trying to accomplish. I mean, the other thing too, in terms of the star point, you know, we wanted to make sure that fortress was elevated, so we got that sense of scale.
Right.
We got that sense of power of this you know, iconic, huge, massive structure sitting on top of the cliff edge,
which
of course also adds to a good sense of verticality,
right,
as well.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, how did you get the design for like this geology and this kind of thing? Like, why is Cirith Ungol looking like this?
Of course, yeah. So, a couple of things. You know, it is Mordor, and this was one of the locations where, you know, we wanted to focus on the geology, sort of having these jagged, strong, aggressive sort of rock formations that set the tone of it being in Mordor. You know, when we begin doing that reference gathering, and we can take a look at some of these rocks here, if we take a little bit of a closer look.
Let's try the one on our right now. It's lit by the sun.
That's great. So you can see there's a nice level of realism that we're accomplishing here, and that is being done through a number of techniques, but one of the ones that we introduced on this game was the concept of photogrammetry.
Right, we talked about that yesterday. So for those who, I mean, I didn't know what it was until you explained, but what is photogrammetry?
Think of it this way. It's a massive you're basically creating a massive 3D scan of whatever you want to essentially use and bring into the game. So what we do is we take these really high resolution photographs, either by going on location and shooting on the ground, or, but this is really cool, we also shoot using drones. So we have,
that's fun.
So we have some folks that bring out their drones, and we go on location and fly around. And essentially what we do is we get, like I said, these high resolution photographs. We scan all this information, and then we bring that into the engine, and that helps generate the geometry and then also the materials.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's a thing that's been around for a long time, but it's sort of newer to games. It used to be, I mean, it started out with, you know, being used by cartologists and by the government in terms of trying to get, you know, basically intelligence on information. And it's been used in film for a good amount of time, but over the last couple of years, it's been introduced into games, and it's really helped bring that level of realism and authenticity up to a whole nother level.
Oh, that's amazing. And for a reminder for everybody watching, we're playing this at 60 frames per second, and then because we're on Twitch and YouTube and that kind of thing, it's at 720p. So we're actually, the TV we're using is 1080p, and then we have 4K. And so just as a reminder, like, if this is how it looks at 720p, so you guys have a standard to know.
Well, you know, and when people see it when they get the game in their houses and they're looking on their nice TVs, they're going to see all of the beauty. I mean, because we are 4K and HDR for the folks that have that capability in their hardware. So, this the game in terms of, you know, resolution is pretty impressive when you see it on some of those newer HDR 4K compatible TVs. It's pretty exciting.
So it's at this moment, I mean, with those incredible TVs, you guys will be able to take this opportunity to. Poor Andy is getting attacked for everybody, but so you can throw people off.
They like you, Andy.
There you go. So you can throw people off these cliffs. They're interactable as well. But we were going to take the opportunity to admire this fortress a little bit. And actually, I mean, as we're looking at it, let's go ahead and run to that crane that's up in the top right there. That's another one of the features that we can interact with. But so where did these big caves come from around us?
Well, that's a great question. I think I'll try and answer it from a couple of angles. You know, as we were talking a little bit earlier, you know, when we're looking at creating a location, what we're trying to do is come up with these signature visual elements that define it
Uh-huh.
and that make it unique from the other biomes
Ooh, cool.
that the players are going to experience. And
Right.
as we know now, we have way more levels than we did in Shadow of Mordor. We have
Yes.
a much larger array of biomes, and they're all very, very diverse. So in the case of this location, one of our high-level goals was let's create this, open, beautiful looking vista, and that's a great shot. Can you hold on that, Andy? And then we wanted to contrast that on that with this massive
Right.
massive cave structure. So
Gotcha.
what we're looking at right now is actually about 1/6 of the level. To our right,
1/6.
something like that. To
Wow.
our right is a massive cave structure. And so this goes into some of the other stuff that we were talking about the other day, and the concept of spatial psychology.
Right. Ooh, and there's going to be some great examples of that too coming up. Which, if you want to start talking, we can. But there's certain call-outs
Yep,
specifically.
let's do it.
Okay. So, to jump to some comments that I've been seeing going through, I think my favorite one was a couple people who I can't. Some people are like, "Oh my god, I love rocks," and some people have been asking to look more at the rocks. And so I'm not sure how sarcastic some of these are, or how from the heart, because I'm watching the rocks. I'm like, I think they like it too. So, man, we love the rocks. We'll watch all rocks. That's
Rocks
what
are
we'll
cool.
do.
Rocks are cool. There's a lot of rocks in the game.
A ton of rocks in the game. So with that, actually, let's go ahead and show off a little bit, because before we get into spatial spatial psychology.
Sure.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about our Terror Tribe, which is currently here, and I want to show some more concept art now that we have a chance. What we have now showing up on screen is one of the concepts for what the Terror Tribe would look like, and this particular one's in the snow. But let's talk a little bit about why the Terror Tribe is this particular art style.
Yeah, great question. Well, let's see. I mean, we have a bunch of tribes. We have 7 that we're going to be releasing with the game.
Right.
And the first high-level goal was for each of them to have their own unique look
gotcha.
and their own unique visual style, their own unique silhouette, color palette, all of these things. But the Terror Tribe in particular, their name suits them well, because they're all about being terrifying and
Absolutely.
intimidating their enemies and celebrating their kills and basically
Right.
putting them out in display.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a number of key visuals that are sort of spiced around the fortress and also around the entire level when the Terror Tribe is owning a location.
Right.
But one of the jokes that we had internally is when we first started doing the concept art for this was, and I brought in some books, and one of the books that I brought in was The Book of Pain.
Ooh.
So this book had all kinds of interesting pictures and descriptions of different types of medieval torture.
Right.
And most of these torture devices were used to get information from the enemy.
Is that related to what we're seeing on this particular thing behind us, with the Graug? And
That exactly. So you can see up on the top of the spire there.
let's actually transition to showing the spire real quick. So we're gonna go back in game for this. So at the top of this spire, correct?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah. So at the top of this spire with the Graug who's being hung there, which I think
Yep.
my favorite comment was, "No Graugs were harmed in the making of this fortress."
No Graugs were harmed. I swear to God, no. So yeah, I mean that right there is a really good example of some of the concepts that I'm talking about, and you can see. I mean, okay, first thing to notice is
Right.
We all know how big a Graug is. Graugs are huge.
Oh, yeah, it's
They're
like-
huge beasts. But look at how small that is, and that is at actual size relative to
Oh,
the
that's
scale
cool.
of the fortress. And so right there you can see that Graug is being tied up, and the Terror Tribe is basically letting everybody know, you want to come closer to this fort? Well, this could happen to you.
Oh man, that's an awesome one, and we can do it to a Graug of all things. So
Yep.
man.
There's a couple other things too, like you can notice on that spot on the top fortress spire, and also to the left garrison, there's these blades, these sort of
Ooh.
big metal blades.
Let's go ahead and start moving into the fortress, and
Yeah,
we
we
can
can
see
take-
some of them up close.
Yeah, we can take a little bit of a closer look there. Oh, here's some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about because there's a giant gap in this fortress. Why? What's going on here?
Yeah. Again, it's going back to that concept of spatial psychology and also playing with verticalities. Okay, so right here's an example. We just came from this big open area, right?
Right.
And there was this big expanse. and we're getting this sense of a beautiful vista. But
Right.
now we're coming into this fortress, and we're going into these contained and sort of more contained environments.
Right.
And the goal of that, and this is it's interesting because it is fairly scientific. That there's been these studies, for example, where they've rigged up human beings, put some sensors on their brains, and studied the brain responses when they were in contained locations.
That's really cool.
And then sort of came out of a contained location
Right.
and went and looked at a vista. And I mean, this is just such an animal response. I mean, think
Right.
about it. We are all journeymen. We're all travelers. We're all
Yeah.
explorers. And so that's why when people are playing games or they're watching films, you see those beautiful panning vistas of a location to set the stage. It's because that gets people excited.
That's so. Right now, I guess we can control everybody's brain for a moment. Andy, if you could turn around and go ahead and head us upwards, we're gonna make everybody have this moment of like lighting up our EKGs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
See.
And this is, this also, we like to have fun with designing opportunities for really interesting traversal and cool,
Right.
cool verticality. And so, yeah, you started out in that open vista, you came down, you're in sort of that more contained environment, and now we're up top and we get another beautiful shot of the vista, and we get a great sense of scale and so forth.
That's so cool. So I guess scientifically, we're all lighting up according to this at the moment. That's fun. Andy's gonna mind control us from Smash C. Exactly. So it's oh, check out the guys on the spikes right there.
Yep, there's another example of the Terra tribe just making sure that whoever's coming up here knows what they're heading for.
Right.
In fact, we can see a little bit of a closer shot of the Grog here on the gatehouse. So he's actually attached to a torture wheel. These were things that actually existed in medieval times. So once again, us bringing that level of authenticity into all forms of torture.
I mean, it's both appreciated and that's crazy. Let's actually to another opportunity, because we talked about the size of this keep and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Let's Andy, let's go ahead and start climbing it. And there's a story that I loved that we're talking about, which is how did this keep get here? And that was a question in chat. Even they're like, why is this here? How they
Yeah, so from the highest level, I think the way we think about this stuff is, we go to world story, and when we start building these environments, we're always talking about, what is the world story? What is the history? What was here before? What's here now? Because it's interesting. Human beings are so trained to be able to know when something doesn't look real or it doesn't look authentic, and when you have these layers of history, which I'm going to get into in a second, it increases that sort of world story and that sense of history. So this particular
it's a great shot.
I know. Look at that Grog, he's so happy.
Oh, he is.
This particular tower was inspired by Numenorian architecture, and as we know with the Numenorian race, they were this very powerful race that had incredible craftsmanship in terms of how they built their structures, and so this is something that's been here for a long time. So it's that layer of history. So we have this Numenorian structure that existed here for a long time, and then we have the layer on top of that, which if we look down, we see some of the Gondorian-inspired architectural buildings that make up the interior of the keep. And then, of course, on top of that, we have the inhabitants that we're currently seeing in the time frame that the game takes place, which is the orcs. So they've basically taken this over and made it their own. And in the particular case of what we're looking at right now, this is the Terra tribe, and that's really one of the amazing, unique features about the game, is that depending on every player that plays this game, depending on what overlord is in charge here, they're going to see a fortress that's going to look completely different and custom catered to that particular overlord and your play. But even more, the lighting changes. So the lighting that we're looking at right now is the lighting atmosphere and mood is associated with the Terra tribe. So each one of these tribes affects the entire world.
Right. So so the sun is a different color right now then. So go ahead and actually give us a view of like that red sky again. So if we had, let's say, the Marauder tribe here.
Yes. we can now look at that.
Oh yeah, we can jump off.
We can see Andy's jumping skills.
I think actually my favorite part about that was Andy and I were practicing this today, and he accidentally jumped off, and he's like, I really hope I don't do that. Well, dude,
whoops,
it's okay.
Well, that's a great view of the clouds.
Look, you found something even better.
Happy accidents.
Yes, exactly. I love happy
Can
accidents.
you jump up on there?
I think so.
There we go.
Ooh.
Yeah, you get a really good sense of the scale. So yeah, as you were saying, if this is the Marauder tribe, for example, it would be a clear blue sky type day. Not nearly as much atmosphere, and we do that because the Marauder tribe is all about pillaging and stealing everybody else's treasure.
Right.
And so what better way to show that off than to have a nice clear blue sky? You get that nice hit of speck on all that gold and silver.
Oh, I love that. So the Marauder tribe with the gold and silver kind of look, and then so for Terror right now we're having that dark red kind of on everything.
Yeah, some of the words that we talked about when we first started developing the Terror tribe was a world painted in blood. So the idea was to go with a more of a sunset sky, and if you look at some of the buildings, you'll see that there's blood dripping down the sides of the buildings because
that's cool.
The Terror, and you can see a little bit of it right there, even because the
Terror
tribe likes to celebrate their
kills,
their torturing.
Oh, that's cool.
They're a happy group.
They are indeed. I mean, well, they relish in the pain, I guess.
They relish in it. Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and jump off the tower now. Actually, on purpose this time, and which honestly, it was a very beautiful swan dive. I don't brag or anything.
Yes. This one might have even been better.
Yeah. Well, let's do a little bit more of that spatial psychology, because to the left, actually, I think is a really fun moment, because we just come from the top of the tower, and then go ahead and run off towards the left real quick. And so suddenly we're shrinking again, but then we can even jump off this little wooden diving board right here.
Yeah.
And then we even drop to a lower moment.
Yep.
And it's so that changing in verticality and that change in space and size. So you were saying that it lights up. Oh, these guys are training. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. The world is just alive.
Just
waiting for us to explore.
When we were testing this earlier, a guy was throwing a hatchet at the target like that, and he missed it, and it bounced off, and we kind of had it. Was just good job. Try again, big guy.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. So, we had a question. Currently, right now, we are demoing on Windows 10, just so you guys are aware. It's a PC. And let's go ahead and jump across that chasm. Or first push. Oh, he died at the edge. And let's see. Oh, this is cool. So, we were talking a little bit. What's the yellow spots that are on a lot of these buildings right now?
Oh, yes. So that is some lichen. Some lichen that is.
We have lichen?
Yes, we do.
Wow.
We have some lichen that's growing all over these fortress buildings, and also, all around the geology. And it's a great question because, we actually talk about this stuff in detail. One of the things that's interesting is, we are a realistic palette. We are an authentic looking world, but we do try to get some color into our levels here and there, just for visual interest. And one of the concepts that we talked about when we were talking about the lichen was that this lichen, sort of this red rust color. It's almost as if it's eating away at the rocks.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's sort of staining the rocks.
Yeah, we can see the lichen on behind our orc friend right there, but we can see the lichen on the stones too.
For sure.
So I saw a question. Someone was asking what lichen is. It's like a moss that grows on. It's a living creature.
Yep.
So it's growing, and as you said, it looks like it's eating away at the stones. Oh, that's cool. This guy, where did my friend go? So that's actually, let's go ahead and start heading towards those caves, because we've got a couple things to show in there. We're not going to show everything in there yet.
No,
we'll give you a little bit.
You want to talk about the mouth?
Ooh, please! Oh, I love the idea of the maw. Yes.
I don't even know if we're going to. Let's see if we can get up.
I think we can. Yeah, we can get a good view from right here.
So just to talk a little bit more about the geology. We're always gravitating towards these sort of unique themes that I've mentioned, and in particular here, the concept that we had was that this cave, these rock formations, were sort of growing and flowing and creating this angular shape that's in almost the shape of a mouth, almost as if it looks like it's getting ready to swallow up the fortress.
That's awesome.
Again, it's Mordor, aggressive shapes,
Gotcha.
Aggressive silhouettes.
It's my shirt currently says Mordor, wish you were here. So it's the right one for the experience. Oh, that's cool. And you see the light. So it's like it's gonna eat this fortress.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic. Cool. All right, let's so Andy, go ahead and that one just to our right. We'll go through that one, then take a sharp left, because there's a tower over there we want to talk about. Which, before we reveal and talk about that tower,
sure.
let's actually talk about the why there's an interesting tower. You described it as almost like points of interest that people can immediately get.
You know, one of the challenges of, you know, making a game is that, you know, obviously you can't control the composition because it's not like a 2D painting where you can, you know, follow the rule of thirds and follow some of these you know, illustration and photography tricks that are pleasing to the eye. So what we do in a 360 world game where you can explore anything is we try to make sure that from as many angles as possible that there are these iconic structures or iconic geological elements to draw the eye, to create visual interest. And in many cases, a lot of the times these, and in this case it is true that, you know, this big iconic structure that we're going to go and check out also has a gameplay opportunity. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have something that's towering in the sky that actually has a purpose, that's drawing the consumer and the player towards it as a point of interest. But it also just, I mean, from its simplest form, it's breaking up the silhouette of the world so that you know, you have, like we were talking about, elevation change. And just, you know, and of course it offers you these
gorgeous vistas.
really cool vistas, so you can check out the world.
Actually, Andy, could you look up to see if, to the left a little bit? I want to see if we can get a bit of more of that mouth look to the right too. Oh yeah, oh wow, it just continues to tower up and over. That is cool. So actually, now that you mentioned this is a gameplay involvement, in fact, you guys can see there's a little icon here. So this is what we call a high deer tower. Basically, these are the exchange of what we have now is, instead of the Tower of Silver, we use these. And so they're allowing you to look and find new points of interest, including things we call Sheila puzzles, which we'll let you guys find. The Ithilden, which we actually had about 2 weeks ago on a stream. We were talking about that with the Celebrimbor legendary gear. And then also you can pick up Gondorian artifacts. And so using these towers, you can use, they turn into fast travel points as well as ways you can discover these things. But we'll let you guys play with those at a later time. And I love if people check. Is it October already? Sorry, bud.
It's coming.
It's coming. So we can see right through there right now a bit of the inside. But before we show that, I want to take us back to some concept art.
Yeah, let's check
because it out. What are the, like, what's going on inside all these places?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, from a narrative standpoint, you know, Cirith Ungol in our story, this is where a lot of the staging for Sauron's forces is taking place for the assault on Minas Ithil. So there's an incredible amount of industry and you know, planning for war and building of war machines and so on. So once we get in there, we can talk about some of the stuff they're doing in there that is getting Sauron's forces ready to take down Minas Ithil.
Actually, before we do that though, we have another inside look, because so we were showing like you could see these wooden platforms kind of thing. So let's go ahead and let's do a quick door. It's so where we had these platforms in there, and so these platforms. Now you had an interesting way to describe this particular environment, and I want to have you say it again, and then we'll go into it.
Sure. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about was the goal here was to create sort of this beehive of activity and visual interest and layers of architecture and verticality. And once we get in here, we'll see that this is one of the big areas of industry where the orcs are mining in this cave for all of its raw materials.
Oh, that's awesome. Gotcha. That's very cool. So with that, actually, let's go ahead and start heading towards that so you guys can see.
Let's do it. It's gonna be cool.
Oh yeah. And so I think I saw Urik's Hollow in there actually made a comment saying concept art is too OP. I particularly liked that. Oh man! And so a couple people asking a few questions related to this, and it's I actually have a question, but I want to. So people were saying, are these caves goblin related at all, or?
Not particularly goblin related. We certainly have our ghouls that like to show up from time to time.
That's true,
depending on the time of day and kind of the state of the game.
Right.
But no, not particularly goblin related. But when we were developing these visuals, I think people are looking at the concept art and seeing some of those similar visuals. We did look a lot at Isengard to sort of sell that concept of Sauron's forces just nonstop preparing for war. And another thing that's interesting to talk about too is some of Tolkien's themes. One of the big themes is the concept of over-industrialization of the world and the fall of nature. And really, that's one of the big concepts that we were excited to be able to really sell in this game versus Shadow of Mordor. So like this shot right here, the joke that I had with my team was like, this is one of my dreams coming true.
Oh,
you know, all of the layers and layers and
right.
suspended bridges, even all of the little torch lights, just this sense that there's just this industry that's forming and these rocks that are being grafted and mined. I mean, to create all. You can see they're
carrying them right now.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're carrying them right now, getting ready to take out Minas Ithil and whoever else is in their way.
Oh, that's cool. They comment that it's when we were talking about Isengard. There's a YouTube video where they take Legolas and have him talk about they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. It's a techno, and now a couple people in chat were singing it, and it's now you put it in my head, guys. Thanks. I'm trying to focus. Oh man, I love the way that you can see the sparkles of like the dust from that one beam of sunlight.
Yeah. That's lots of little atmospheric tricks that we use here. I mean, atmosphere is everything, in terms of creating a mood. And in this particular area, we really amped up the fog and the particles to give that sense that there's all this activity, and it's almost like the industry is choking the air,
right?
And again, that's the concept of creating a mood and creating a feeling and trying to get an emotional response from our players.
Oh, man, it's so pretty, and I love how you can see it look back out and go in that direction.
There's your spatial psychology.
Oh, you're right. It's that moment of like you're compressed and then you have it open.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. Let's see. We have I'm looking for a couple questions just as I'm curious, but I had one a second ago that I thought was pretty fun. Which actually, I think we were running through this yesterday because I wanted to tell a little bit of story. So sometimes this is a bit slippery, and we've seen orcs falling off some of these rafters. In fact, just a second ago we saw when Andy and I was practicing, an orc stepped on a mine and blew himself off.
Yes. It's a very safe place.
I was about to ask.
Mordor is a very, very safe place.
I was about to mention, like, it just when we're looking at this, you can almost see a bit of ingenuity, but also that kind of level of like, slap it together.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great point. I mean, the orcs are interesting. I think that poor orcs get a bad rap.
Really?
They get a bad rap.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of folks think of them as being sort of mindless soldiers, and they're not very intelligent, and they don't really have personality or anything like that. But they actually do, and I think that's one of the coolest things about the Shadow series is that because of the Nemesis system and because of the way that we've sort of developed these unique characters that are different for each gameplay, we're really expanding what an orc can be, how an orc can talk, what he can say, but also what he can look like. I mean, with our tribes, there is a huge expansion of visuals that, I think it still looks like this is an orc. He feels like he fits in this world.
Right.
But, we're showing so much more personality in the orcs in terms of the design of them.
That's cool. I love to hear that. And actually, Andy, continue on to there's another crane that I want to have us run to because it adds a very fun opportunity.
We could also check out the boiling mud down at the bottom.
That's actually, the crane is a perfect transition to it.
The boiling mud.
It's that's happened to why we like the position of this particular crane. This goes back to your spatial psychology again, because now we were in this big open area, but just a quick little step off the top of this, and suddenly we're back into an enclosed, quiet, hot, burning place. And you were telling me, what's with the boiling mud a little bit?
Boiling mud is cool.
Oh, that's it. It's cool. That's all.
No, it's again. I mean, it's an environmental hazard, which is really cool. But it also sets that tone, the tone of danger,
right?
The sense that they're mining this location, trying to get whatever materials they can, and that it's a dangerous place,
right?
And it's not like we just randomly say, oh, let's put a boiling mud pool here. No, we put it here because it's helping to tell that world story.
Right.
It's a visual that represents danger, and that I think represents Mordor really well. Andy, you should see if there's an orc that maybe is nearby that mud pit. And
there are three.
What might happen near there?
We did just get a request in chat for that very thing.
Oh, well, that's perfect. So as you guys can see,
see.
So
he might come back later. You never know.
Man, he might come back. That would be an interesting
He'll remember.
He'll remember the boiling. And this one, as Andy put it earlier, one particular sauna for him alone, personally. I love the fact that it splashes mud and then there's the fire that comes after that.
Yes, it's toxic. And then, when you see some of our orcs that have the burns on their faces, where do you think they were? Probably over here.
That's some cool environmental storytelling.
And that environmental storytelling connected to our orcs and all the different impacts that you can have on them, and that the world can have. Just as a living world, it's just it's just happening all the time.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really cool. I love the lights too as you're walking through here.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, that's one of those things that really helps give it that sort of beehive look. That really the sense of visual complexity and just I think helps sets the tone.
Right. I love it. It's people are saying jump in the mud, or it's just like and donate to save these orcs that have been through the mud. So at this point, actually, we'll open up to a Q&A related to our art. Actually, first we'll throw this guy in. But we want to have.
We must do that first.
First, we
very
do this.
Important.
Oh, look! You can see the guy floating in it after he fell in. Oh, that's nice.
He's taking a bath.
He's taking a mud. His skin's gonna be so soft.
It's a mud peel.
It's a mud peel. I mean, his skin will peel off with it. So it's very good.
So we have looked at like a very tiny sliver of this cave. There's all kinds of interesting stuff in there.
That's awesome. I mean, this is such a small sliver of this entire level.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it has so many... Oh, that's very cool. I love that. I mean, and let's go ahead and transition back to just our faces in this one. So now we want to open up to a QA related to the art stuff that we were talking about. We'll do about 10 minutes of that. And, so it's basically as long as we got questions related to art, we'll answer some of those. And then
sounds good.
We'll be hanging out. And that's also just so proud of I was like, going to wear the Wish You Were Here shirt for the open world. So throw an Olog in the mud. Harder to throw. Bit bigger. Let's see. Save the Uruks at this point. They're going extinct. I can understand. Let's see. Here we go. How important is concept art to the design process of the game?
Really important.
Yeah?
Really, really important. I mean, we're a concept art first studio, and kind of what I mean by that is that first of all, the teams really appreciate being part of that process and working with me and the concept team to understand visually what we're trying to do. But in the very early stages of development, we don't have anything. There's nothing that we can point to other than reference pictures and so forth. And so early on, developing the concept art for our locations, for our characters, for our visual effects, it really helps to start creating a world that people can understand and grasp onto. Because before you have the pictures, you just have ideas. They're just theories. And so, I may be running around talking about, we want this cave to look like there's a mouth that's, getting ready to swallow the fortress, or a fortress in the clouds. What does this mean? I don't know what Phil's talking about. And so this is a way where, I can work with our team and present these ideas and hopefully get people excited. And sometimes we have ideas that sound really good on paper, and once we start conceptualizing them, we realize that maybe that's not the direction to go. So
that's cool.
And for me, it's the funnest part, because I come from an illustration and concept art background. That's sort of where I started. So I enjoy going and working on that work and the creative process.
That's amazing to hear how integral it is to just the creation of the experience.
Yeah.
That is fun. We have a couple questions. Can we buy art? Actually, is that something that ever occurs? Really?
Can we buy art?
Yeah. I mean, I guess not in general of all art pieces.
You can buy art somewhere.
But I guess is it common for concept art to be something that's sold?
Concept art? Yeah. I mean, certainly. I think concept art and illustration.
Right.
There's definitely a lot of folks that are interested in getting their hands on specific concept art, whether it be for a game or a film, or maybe it's for Magic the Gathering or some of these things. So you can
concept art books. I just saw that in the comments.
There's concept art books for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Oh. That's exciting. I'm just like, ooh, I just like that kind of stuff. Let's see. Going back to so this is an interesting one, which I'm unsure if from Calyx 189. How long does it take to go from drawing a fortress to making it in game kind of thing? It's probably a huge amount of time.
It's a good amount of work.
Right.
I'm trying to think, because usually we have multiple locations going at one particular time. So I think from the conceptual standpoint of developing, we're just going to talk about the Cirith Ungol, the world.
Okay, specifically.
We probably spent about a month working on the concepts for that.
Wow,
that would be 3 or 4 concept artists working on that in tandem. But that would be just talking about the landscape and the geology.
Right.
Then there's additional time that goes into developing the architecture and the types of architecture that we have within each of the levels. So add that to your concept time. That's probably another couple of weeks. And then, as I think most people know, we go into what we call a blockout stage.
Right.
So
interesting.
So where the art team and the design team work together to sort of develop a couple of key components. One is where the gameplay opportunity is going to be.
Right.
Also, I should also mention, where the narrative opportunity is going to be. So
cool.
We're thinking about those things. We're also thinking about the traversal and where we want to have a large amount of traversal and where we want to have less traversal.
Right.
And then, of course, we have our areas where we want to have combat, and we want to make sure that the way we build these levels support combat in all shapes and sizes, right? So, we have grogs. You can ride grogs.
So you get enough room for them.
Make sure that there's enough room for them.
Right.
You can ride Caragors. And so after we go through the blockout stage, then we do what we call a visual target. So visual target is the goal of that is to kind of discover a number of different things.
Right.
First thing is, here we have our concepts, we have our references. Now after we've got this blockout done, let's figure out how we're going to make this. Do we need to go and get more photo shoots? Do we need to go to a specific location?
Fly more drones.
Need to fly more drones and get some more photogrammetry.
Right.
And then we start building a little area, a little corner, and that proves out some of the key visual components that we're trying to create.
A little test area.
Yeah, it's a little test area. So
cool.
so then we understand, what does it take to build this portion of the world, and we have a better sense for how those. I mean, the other thing is it's not the how, it's how we make assumptions in concept,
right.
And we want to make sure that we take those assumptions and put them into a space where we can move around and feel it and get a sense for it, and make sure that those assumptions are going to be compelling and visually interesting and serve the gameplay and serve the story.
Oh, that's cool. I saw another question I wanted to grab, but before I hit that one, someone was saying, yes, I'm Jared the Hairy. I follow that O-Log 100%. That's what we do, man. Don't need to shave anything. This is pride. Anyway, back to the more professional question.
You are a man.
Yes. So a person had, what is, as a director of art, what is the director of art's responsibility involved in this? Are you? I mean, I know it's funny, but it's honestly, it's kind of one of those things where it's are you drawing it? Are you choosing what's allowed? Are you adding feedback? Are you adding on? What's?
Yeah, all of the above.
Oh, there you go.
All of the above. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a simplified way to think about what I do. I mean, so I work with the entire team to develop the visual style, the visual look. And the visual goals for the games that we work on here. And so do I draw and do I paint? That's where I'm from. I come from an illustration background, as we mentioned.
So cool.
And I do preliminary sketches and drawings. I do a lot of drawings on whiteboards. But I usually get to do, a number of concept pieces for each title.
Oh, that's cool.
And then outside of that, the director of art is responsible for working with all of the different art teams that make up a game studio. So I work with the animation team, the cinematics team, the character art team, the concept team, the world art team, the UI team, and the goal is to make sure that we're creating a cohesive visual experience. That there is a look that the game has, that there's common visual threads that are consistent throughout the game, and that everything makes sense. I mentioned it before, and I always say this. I mean, the biggest thing for us is authenticity. Is we do a ton of research. Even though this has been focused on the world, when we're developing our characters, we look at you know, we study and look at the thread counts that were available for our characters, or the
Thread
type,
counts, interesting.
or the dies that were
Right.
available at that time. And we, you know, with our orcs, we push that stuff a little bit because we want to have variety. But
Right.
you know, it's just a lot of care that goes into being very true to the franchise that we've built, the game that we're creating, and this you know, we had Shadow of Mordor, and now we have Shadow of War. It's a sequel, and we're building this universe.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's also, I think, a great spot to end on for this. So,
Cool.
I mean, guys, thank you for those questions. I mean, it was a joy to take out what you guys had going, and can Jared voice an orc? Tree? I'll try. In this regard, Phil, thank you so much. This is Phil Straub again.
Thank you.
Like, it
Appreciate
was a joy to have
Thank
you
you guys.
for being here. Thank you. It was awesome. Now, remember, actually, before we go, let's do a reminder on the info tab real quick so that we can show guys where to find us. We got us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got our community forums, Reddit, and the Discord. These are links down below if you're on Twitch. Go ahead and Google them otherwise. And thanks again for coming by. It was a joy to have you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.